Some phone calls don't come through towers. Some phone calls don't obey time. And some come from people who should not be calling at all. It began with a ring, ordinary, unremarkable. My phone lit up like it always does. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I was standing at the kitchen sink, hands still wet from washing dishes. Outside, it was dark, raining, and quiet. But something pulled at me, an uneasiness, a weight. I picked up the call, and then everything changed. The voice on the other end was soft, familiar. My heart stopped. I knew that voice. I had known it my whole life. It was my sister, but she died 3 years ago. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. The air thickened around me as I stood there frozen. She said my name once, just once, almost like a whisper, but it cut through me like a siren. I thought it was a prank. It had to be. Some cruel, sick trick. But the more she spoke, the more I realized this wasn't some impersonation. This wasn't a recording. This was her cadence, her lopsided laugh, the way she stretched my name when she was teasing, the same warmth, the same sadness I heard the last time we spoke. Then she said something I will never forget. You thought I wouldn't find out. The line went silent. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a flat thud, and I just stood there, listening to my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Find out what? I hadn't done anything, not anything criminal. But when your dead sister calls you and says that, you start to wonder. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced. I double-checked the call log. Nothing. No number. No trace. It was like it never happened. But I knew better. I had heard her, felt her. There was no mistaking it. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same voice. Only this time, she said more. She asked if I remembered the night before. She died. I did. I remembered every second. We had fought. Loud, angry, cruel. It was about something stupid, of course. Aren't most fights between siblings? But that night, it had felt bigger, colder. She accused me of being selfish. I told her she was a drama queen. She yelled. I yelled louder. And then she left. It was raining. She drove off, and I didn't stop her. 2 days later, they found her car wrapped around a tree on a rural road. Everyone said it was the storm. Bad visibility, slick pavement, but I knew. I knew the last words I ever said to her were bitter and angry and unkind. And now, she knew too. Each night, the calls continued, always around the same time. Sometimes it was her voice, sometimes just breathing, and sometimes silence. But every time, I knew it was her. She started naming things, specific memories I'd buried deep, things I'd never said out loud to anyone. She mentioned the poem I wrote about her but never shared, the one I burned in the sink. She knew about the anniversary trip I skipped, too ashamed to face our parents. She knew I kept one of her sweaters tucked away in my drawer that I sometimes wore on the days I missed her most. She knew everything. I tried everything to stop it. I changed my number. I switched phones. I turned it off, buried it in a drawer, even threw one into a river. The calls still came. One time, I was visiting a friend in another city. We were sitting in her living room, no electronics on. Suddenly, the baby monitor in the corner crackled to life, though she didn't have a baby anymore. And from the static came my sister's voice. "You can't run from the truth." I screamed. My friend thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was, but I wasn't imagining this. Something was happening. She was reaching out from somewhere, and she wanted me to listen. One night, I went back to our childhood home. my parents had kept her room just as it was, like a museum, her perfume still on the shelf, her favorite books still on the desk. And on the wall, the corkboard filled with pictures of us, birthday parties, sleepovers, trips to the beach. Every smile now felt like a haunting. I sat on her bed and whispered into the dark, "I'm sorry." And just as the words left my mouth, the old landline rang. It hadn't rung in years, not since my parents switched to mobile, but it rang. I picked it up with trembling hands. There was no voice this time, just quiet, steady breathing. And then faintly, so faintly I almost thought I imagined it, she said, "I forgive you." Then silence, and the line went dead. No more calls came after that. But I wasn't at peace. Not really. Because that forgiveness, it didn't erase the guilt. It didn't bring her back. It didn't rewind time. But it was something. A door closing. A thread cut. A goodbye. Now, years later, I sometimes still wake at 9:17 p.m. without knowing why. I still check my phone, almost expecting it to ring. It never does, but I keep it nearby, just in case. Because if she ever calls again, I'll be ready to answer.